Hi, I'm Jen Giffen from Shooks and Gift the Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Bryon Carpenter. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to exercise by walking about my neighborhood, to take in podcast content, then reflect in an unedited video, which I finally post to my Twitter channel. This podcast will be a regular collection of the audio from these selfie videos. You can follow me on Twitter at FreshAirAtFive or check out my website, BryonCarpenter.com, for other content I have created and collected. Hey PLN, happy May 3rd, 2021. We're in the 5th month of the year. It is May in full force here where I am. And yesterday my wife and I were in the garden in our yard putting on bark mulch and watching our flowers grow. And she commented that this is the first year she's seen our clematis and our dogwood, our crabapple tree and our cherry tree all in bloom at the same time. So we've had a beautiful April, nice and warm, and things are growing really well here. So it's pretty nice to be outside here and getting fresh air where I am. So speaking of fresh air, this morning I stepped out the door and I'm out walking right now and getting some fresh air. And I listened to the podcast Leader of Learning, episode 115. And I saw the title and it intrigued me. So thank you, Dan, for putting the word action hero in your title. Well, Dan talked with John Davis, who is a stunt and action hero trainer, teacher, instructor, and works with actors and teaches them how to do fight scenes and teaches students how to probably jump out of buildings and land and survive. You know, those things that we see on television and in movies. And the most recent one I watched was Without Remorse, the Tom Clancy show on Prime Video, and amazing just to watch how you can have a human being do those stunts and actions. It's amazing. So John Davis was inspiring. And so if you need a boost today, you know, teachers, remember, you are action heroes. Don't know what I mean by that? Take a listen to this podcast, because John talks about how the word action has to do with putting some energy in to get something moving. And then the word hero is about doing something extraordinary in the service of others. And we watch superheroes do that all the time, but I never really thought about exactly what that meant. And so thank you for explaining that and showing that this morning to me. Appreciate it. I'm feeling fired up. I am an action hero, and I'm out here for Fresh Air at 5. Thanks, John, and thanks, Dan. Bye. One more thing for May 3rd, 2021. As I'm finishing up my walk, it's daylight now. It's really nice. It's over high clouds. It's not raining. We're expected to get a little bit of precipitation later, but probably not too much. And it's a beautiful day. All right. My one more thing is, as I listen to the Good News, Brad News show, episode 18, I want to say, Brad, you and I have kept pace with our podcast since the beginning of January, and that's fantastic. My episode 18 drops this Friday at midnight, called All About Carpenter Beyond Education. So anyhow, that's my plug about that, so you'll hear that. But let's get back to what you're talking about this morning on episode 18, is you're speaking with Shelley Moore, who is here from British Columbia and grew up in Alberta. And I grew up in Alberta, Shelley. So I grew up in Calgary, the other city. And as far as competition between sports teams goes, well, we won't talk about that much. But Shelley comes to us this morning on the Good News, Brad News podcast, and she shares her understanding of inclusion education and all manners of that for special ed kids, for lifestyle kids with lifestyle challenges, and those challenges are things to be embraced. And Shelley, thank you for opening this guy's eyes up to the potential for, including everybody. And congratulations on your upcoming little one that's going to be born to you and your wife. And I wanted to say that. So, it's fantastic. I saw you back in January of 2016 at TEDx Langley. I was in the audience, and I think I was tweeting at the time as well about what you're talking about. And it's great to see your potential go beyond just potential, but way into action and making a difference in many's lives. So I like what you talked about how the system doesn't really support kids with challenges the way that they could. It says, oh, you can do it, but it doesn't teach them how to do it. And it's important that we as a system change that and think about that. Bye. May the 4th be with you, PLN. Well, happy Star Wars Day, May 4th, 2021. And this morning I'm out for fresh air at 5 this morning. And I was expecting to get wet, but it's been nice and dry. The ground's wet, but that's okay. And yes, out walking. So this morning on Fresh Air at 5 for listening, I took in Overthrowing Education, episode 47, as Batsheva Frankel talks with Lorraine Connell, who is a chemistry and leadership teacher in her space. And I didn't catch exactly where that is, but the point is that she teaches science and she teaches student leadership and she grows students to be better humans. And Lorraine, I appreciate your comments and your conversation with Batsheva as you share from your experience of the inequities in the student leadership programs that we see in our school and in our student leadership in schools, and looking at popularity compared to growing skills. And it's a thing to grow a student leader. And as you are in secondary and high school, you've got a lot of predisposed ideas with students, what they think about student leadership and what you can do with student leadership. And as all of you out there that are listening that are leaders, you know it doesn't just happen overnight, where you're not just born with it. And some of that is partly there, but some of it, most of it, I believe is nurtured. This leader here has been nurtured over time. And am I where I think I would like to be? Nope, I'm not yet. And that's fine, because I've got places to grow in myself, and I have opportunities to deepen my understanding of human relationships, because as we engage and interact with each other in these human relationships, we need to have a deep understanding of other people. And working with a crowd, we have to understand crowd thoughts and things like that. And Batsheva and Lorraine, appreciate your conversation. Happy day. One more thing for May the 4th be with you, as it's May 4th, 2021. I'm listening to Define University episode 67 with Lindsay Titus, as she brings us an episode, and she talks about classroom management and student leadership. And the operative word in that phrase is the word and how we can do both of those things, not just one of those things at one at a time, but how the system and the leadership is integrated with classroom management. Thank you, Lindsay, for challenging us to think about classroom management as not such a prescription that we get it from the district or from the government and curriculum to say this is how thou shalt manage thy classroom and it shall be perfect. Because as soon as we do that, we're going to run into a situation where we don't understand, because our students are individuals and come with awesomeness, and they bring that, and our system likely isn't ready to handle that. Student leadership, so important that we empower our students to be leaders within our classroom spaces. And that's a balancing act of doing both things. We don't have to do just one. Thanks, Lindsay, for your encouragement. Thank you for your positivity. And thanks for making a difference in my day. Bye. One more thing for May 4th. This morning's podcast set that I listened to of Overthrowing Education where Bathsheba talks with Lorraine Connell about student leadership in growing leaders in her school. And as Lorraine, you're a chemistry teacher, so am I, and how I find it fascinating that as a chemistry teacher, you are also a student leadership teacher, which is fantastic. But the bridge there between that episode and Define University with Lindsay Titus is Lindsay is talking about classroom management and student leadership and how taking and finding the awesomeness that we have in our kids that are not necessarily the popular or the upfront ones and drawing them out to engage them in the values and the systems that we have in place, not so that they can be compliant, but so that they can understand themselves and grow themselves in more capacity in schools. So that's my wrap-up thoughts for this morning. Thanks, and may the 4th be with you. Hey, PLN, May 5, 2021. It's Wednesday, and it's a beautiful day here in Abbotsford, BC, as I'm out here for Fresh Air 5 this morning. This morning, I was privileged to listen to the Staff Room podcast with Jay and Pav, episode number 85, as they bring to us mission and vision with the student connection and how they bring their thoughts about the direction and the culture and the purpose of their classroom space to their students and in their thought about how they prepare their work. And you know, I really like what you guys have to say, because mission and vision is one of those things that organizations sit down and do when they nail this thing down and put it on the deck and make sure it's fastened down and put it on a plaque on the wall. But you know what? If it's just a plaque on the wall, we're doing it to put it on that engraved plaque that sits on the wall. I don't know, for how long? How long does it need to stay there? And how long do we need to keep it there on the wall for it to actually change the culture? And if it's just on the wall, it's not going to change the culture at all. I totally agree. I think it's something that we need to talk about. I think it's something we need to keep in front of us. It's something we need to have on a coffee cup that we're looking at every day when we drink our coffee. So you guys are bringing it. Wow, I love it. And I'm encouraged because it gets me thinking about what's the point of what I do every day. And you know, lately, with all the things that have been going on at my school, not bad things, just full things, the richness and the fullness of having, well, we're getting audited at my school this currently right now. So there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be collected and evidence of learning and learning plans and all that stuff that, you know, takes away from, actually working with students. But without it is, us not effectively working with students. It's like vision and mission. You got to think about it and put it down so that you can do that. So I think I got distracted from what I was saying, but I'm running out of time. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for the thoughts, and keep it real. And we are action heroes. Action heroes we are. Bye. One more thing for May 5, 2021. Jay and Pav, thanks for doing your podcast and being so, outgoing and inclusive in who you have in your community, and thanks for having me in your community. Really appreciate it. Makes a difference to me because I look through my podcatcher and I go, hey, there's my friends. They got a podcast, and I can see your faces on your cover. So maybe I should put my face on my Fresh Air at 5 and get my face on there, do some different graphic maybe. Maybe we'll have to see so that people can relate that to Carpenter. But I wanted to say that, guys, you're phasing out the 3 enlightened minutes. And it's curious to me. Well, not curious. It's a natural flow to me how we change the way we deliver content over time, and how we learn about ourselves and we find out what's effective. And you guys have gone from 3 enlightened minutes, well, Shay, to the commercial break. And today's commercial break was about bananas and yogurt, and you can't have a good smoothie without them. And that's fantastic because I think the banana industry gets good value out of that, as does the yogurt industry. But it's a lot of fun to hear how you guys have changed, the depth of your conversation and the way you do your engagement with your listeners. So positive. It's all good. I'm going to miss the 3 enlightened minutes because I like hearing that short segment that was related or unrelated to the content you were delivering at that day. And it was great I'm thankful that you had me with my 3 enlightened minutes back. Oh, was that 25 episodes or 30 episodes ago? Really awesome. Thanks so much. That's it. And one more thing is for May 5, 2021. Okay, bye. Hey PLN, it's May 6, 2021, and I'm out here for Fresh Air at 5 this morning, and this morning's a overcast morning, but it's about 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, and it's beautiful to get some fresh air. The light is coming up, and it's no longer as dark as it was 2 months ago when I'm out here for Fresh Air at 5. All right, this morning I listened to episode 59 of the Educational Duct Tape Podcast with Jake Miller. And Jake, thanks for bringing Casey Bell on. I know it was the second part of a conversation that you had with her, and I haven't heard the first part, so I'm going to have to go listen to Casey's podcast to catch the first part. But so much fun to hear you and Casey talk. Both of you are rock stars to me, and the things that you do and the way that you project yourself and share your content is so fantastic, and I really, really appreciate that. This guy over here has learned a lot, and I go buy duct tape because buying duct tape, it's just a thing that a guy can do. Oh no, there's more than one way to do that. I don't just have to use duct tape. That's right. And so your soapbox moment this morning with Tim Toddy, I like that story, and I was like, well, I was drawn in right at the beginning, but it was a made-up story about the differences between Python and Perl, those programming languages, and that there's more than one way to do that. And I get stuck on things, and I have my thing, but I don't just really have my thing. If you follow me along here for a while, you might know that I'm an Adobe Spark guy for digital creations, but there's more than one way to do that. But I do work with it with my students and get them exposed to it so that they can learn a tool and go in depth on it, as opposed to barely learning a tool and having more choice. There is a lot of choices that they can have, and I do give my students those choices as they move along. But I think it's really important for us as we work with students to expose them to tools and techniques for a while so that they can build up their toolbox. Thanks, Casey. Thanks, Jake. I appreciate you. And this was a great episode of the Jake Up Learning Podcast. Peace out. Happy Thursday. Bye. One more thing for May 6, 2021. Well, Jake, you asked us to respond to you about a tool or a funny moment or an inspiring thing or an adjacent possible, something that happened this year, so you can include our voices on the final episode for this season. Well, Jake, there's more than one way to do that. And you've got 2 ways that you asked us to do that. And this is me pushing on that because, the recent soapbox moment where you talked about Tim Toddy, there is more than one way to do that, is me giving you my thoughts right here in Twitter in a selfie video. And I'm going to ask you to use this as a submission for winning your free book. And so I would like to have a signature of, that you signed in a book and send it to me. And I can send you my address so that you can do that. All right. So, of significance this year, I did like the Tim Toddy. That was the recent soapbox moment, but that's like right now. So that's kind of cheating. But my favorite soapbox moment, is kind of the meta one where you shared, Jake, me and you talking about the abundance of tools in Home Depot and Lowe's and drills, and how we, oh my goodness, I'm going to stop. And how we, have all these tools that we can use, but we can't use them all at the same time. And so that was on the episode with Claudio Zavella Jr., which is another fantastic reason to listen to that episode. So if you haven't listened to Claudio, go take a listen. The guy's a master, and I follow him on YouTube, and I use his stuff in my classroom, and it's so good to have him share. And thank you, Claudio, for what you do. So Jake, appreciate you. I've got 2 soapbox moments that were of significance. One was the one where we reflected on tools and having a tool belt and what's in your tool belt, and the other on Tim Toddy, because there is always more than one way to do that. Thanks all. Peace. Bye-bye. Another one more thing. This is for Jake Miller. As Jake, you enjoy my another one more thing. So this one is just for you, saying, Jake, I appreciate what you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job of bringing it to the people so the people can be more than just what they were, but they can learn things and dig into the adjacent possible. You're making a difference, people, and you are making a difference too, Jake. Thanks all for all you're doing, and happy Teacher Appreciation Week. Bye. Hey, PLN, it's later on May 6, 2021, and I'm just wrapping up delivering newspapers for my daughter. It's around 5 o'clock p.m. here, a beautiful afternoon. Overcast, but that's totally cool and good. So, this afternoon as I was walking and delivering papers, I listened to My EdTech Life, episode 60. I can't remember. Hang on. Episode 62, as Fonz talks with Katie, who is Glam Techie, and how she talks about STEM and bringing awareness of STEM to the minorities, people, the minority groups, and the work that she's doing there. And she also talked about the hustle culture and how the hustle culture is killing us and we have to slow down. And, you know, it's something that I have been learning about myself and how I balance myself. And so if you look at my tweets, they all talk about hashtag balance, LAP, that's balance like a pirate. And I talk about that and I keep that in front of my face all the time because it's a book I read written by Sarah Johnson, Jessica Cabine, and Jessica Johnson, and how they bring together and the four parts of your life: your personal, professional, positional, and your passion part of your life. And some of this tech stuff that I do, you know, like is passion part of my life, but it fits more into professional and how I, you know, interact with my world and my career and education and things like that. And you know, it's about managing and balancing and my personal life, you know, my family, my kids, my wife, and how our home is, and you know, how we take care of our stuff and things like that. So this is, really insightful. And thank you, Katie, for bringing up this conversation about how we use social media and how it can drive us to do and be not protective of our well-being. So that's important. Well-being's key. It's absolutely super important, because if we're not well, we can't take care of those that need us, like our students and the people around us. All right. Have a great day. Thanks, Fonz. Peace out. Happy Thursday afternoon. Bye-bye. Hey, PL, and it's Friday, May 7th, 2021. It's the end of the week, and today I'm excited. I get to attend a morning session at a conference, and it's actually just all morning. It's the DL Symposium 2021 with Canny Learn, and we have our last of a 4-day conference series this spring, where, wow, it's been really good. So I'm looking forward to learning myself this morning and growing a little bit more as an educator. So, you know, if you're listening to this on the replay, like on my FreshAirAtFive podcast, this will be coming out next week at the end of episode 19. But if you're listening to it today, that is relevant for today, that the DL Symposium is happening today. And what else is going on in Carpenter's life? My wife and I have been married for 22 years, and we're celebrating our anniversary tomorrow, and we've got Anniversary Adventure Day going on. So we're heading out and about to go get some takeout and go to a park and go for a walk and things like that. So looking forward to that opportunity. But if you're listening to it on the replay, that's already happened. So it's kind of funny. I record so you can listen in the mornings, but I also then put this into content that's about a week and a half old by the time you're hearing it. So try not to do too much data stuff here. All right, this morning I listened to TNT EdTech podcast with Scott News and Matthew Ketchum, and their episode that they shared was Scott News being interviewed by Shane Lawrence of the Ed Podcast, and I can't remember any podcast numbers here. It'll be in the tweet, but Scott News was a guest on Sean Lawrence. I'm sorry, Sean. His show. And they talked about life and all manner of things, teaching, Scott's journey, talked about SEL, talk about getting through this. And I appreciated listening to their conversation. You know, this is the end of Teacher Appreciation Week. And you know, us teachers, we work hard. And I appreciate you as a teacher. Thanks for being there for your students, taking care and making a difference. Talk to you. Bye. One more thing for May 7, 2021. As I'm wrapping up my Fresh Air at 5 walk this morning, I listened to my buddy Tim Cavey as he talked on episode 192 of Teachers on Fire podcast in a spark about how he is making student learning visible with whiteboard.fi. And it's a whiteboarding tool that is a collaborative or individual tool, I believe. And I have to look more into it because I am not a classroom whiteboard guy yet, but it's coming. And so Tim, he shared his experience with whiteboard.fi and talked about his incremental growth in the area of learning new tools and trying new things. And there's whiteboard chat that's coming along. And for those of you that had the opportunity to listen live, Tim had his Teachers on Fire roundtable discussion this past Saturday morning as he had 5 or 6 educators talk about their experience with whiteboarding and collaborative learning tools like Whiteboard and Jamboard and other tools like that. So fantastic. And with that note, I want to say thanks, Tim, for your inspiration. Thanks for helping me on my learning journey. And I really do attribute a lot of my growth professionally to the work that you started with Teachers on Fire back in the day. Had me on as a guest, and now I'm a pod listener, and now I'm a podcaster. So appreciate the work that you do. Thank you so much for being a Teacher on Fire. And I look forward to more from you and really appreciate our weekly chats that we have on Instagram on Monday afternoons. All right, look forward to talking to you on Monday. Happy day, happy Friday, and happy Teacher Appreciation Week to you all. Yes, you are appreciated. Might not seem like it sometimes, and I don't feel like it sometimes as well, but I know that I'm appreciated, and seeing the lights come on in my students' eyes makes it all worth it. Happy Friday. Bye. Thanks for listening to episode 19 of Fresh Air at 5, my podcast. And this week's title of this episode was Teachers Are Superheroes. Not superheroes, action heroes. And I got to go back and listen to the conversation about that at the very beginning of this episode. You have already, and my thoughts on that. And it's a Teacher Appreciation Week. And yes, it's hard, this thing being a teacher. It's hard working with students. It's hard doing the paperwork, doing the social, emotional part of it, and but it's rewarding. And hard things are rewarding, typically. There's a lot of hard things that are probably just not rewarding at all, but this is not one of them for me. So this is what I'm bringing, and I appreciate you taking time to listen to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. Share this with somebody if you can. I'd appreciate that. And you know what? I appreciate you being here, listening to the end. Have a fantastic day. Bye.
As my one word for 2021 is appreciate, I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific podcast episodes in the show notes for your learning convenience. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoy this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can also be found on Voice Ed Radio. Your voice is right here, and on the Education Podcast Network, podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day and get some fresh air before the day is out, and take care of yourself because you're worth it.